Hi all, my name is Lena. I'm one of the Russia team deputy leads and an analyst here at ISW. And today I'm going to talk about my most recent report for ISW entitled The Kremlin's Occupation Playbook, Coerced, Russification, and Ethnic Cleansing in Occupied Ukraine. The key theses of this report is that Russia's war in Ukraine is a war for people and not just land, and that the Kremlin's strategy in occupying Ukraine is to fully control Ukraine's people, and to do so effectively enough that both Ukraine and its supporters see the occupation as irreversible. In the report, I outline how Russia has gone about occupying Ukraine for this exact purpose, using the framework that I call the Kremlin's Occupation Playbook. I argue that 2022 is not the first time that Russia has used this playbook, neither in Ukraine nor elsewhere. The Kremlin first used a limited iteration of this playbook in 2008 when it invaded Georgia and occupied the Georgian territories of South Ossetia and Abkhazia, and then further developed this playbook in Ukraine in 2014 when it invaded Crimea and parts of the Donbass. Key elements of the 2014 occupation strategy in Crimea and parts of the Donbass include the following: what I call legal theater, or using illegal and illegitimate accession referenda to cloak Russia's illegal activities in Crimea and Donbass in this legal-sounding veneer that allowed Russia to claim widespread local support for the Russian annexation. Secondly, passportization, or the weaponization of mass issuance of Russian passports to spread influence and claim that Russia has some sort of special rights to Crimea because of the number of passport holders there. The number of passport holders in those statistics are, of course, artificially inflated by mass issuance of passports. The third category in this occupation playbook are demographic alterations, basically encouraging Russians from Russia to relocate to Crimea and parts of Donbass to change the demographic makeup of these areas and make them appear somehow inherently Russian. Ukrainian sources estimated that Russia may have imported up to 1 million Russians to Crimea alone in the first 4 years of the occupation. And then the fourth and final category is the limited access to Ukrainian language education in schools in Crimea and Donbass to ensure that multiple generations of children grow up in a Russified school system, and to spread Russian language to claim that Russia has special rights to Russian speakers in these occupied areas. The Kremlin is now applying many of these occupation elements in the territory of Kherson, Zaporizhia, Donetsk, and Luhansk oblasts, and at an expedited scale. The Kremlin has conducted legal theater through sham referenda in all 4 occupied oblasts, has staged mass passportization, which has been coerced by withholding essential healthcare and other services in the absence of those without Russian passports, using social services such as birth certificates, pensions, state payrolls, and maternity capital payments to form essentially multi-generational dependencies on the occupation administration for the provision of most basic social and public services. And then the gradual eradication of Ukrainian language, history, and cultural education in schools, and the use of the school system to militarize and Russify Ukrainian youth. An additional critical component of the Kremlin's occupation playbook is the strategy of deliberately deporting Ukrainians from Ukraine and replacing the population with Russians, in what likely amounts to a massive ethnic cleansing campaign under international law. Russian estimates state that Russia has deported up to 4.8 million Ukrainians, including 700,000 children, to Russia since the start of the war. The deportation campaign, especially the campaign to deport Ukrainian children, robs Ukraine of its multi-generational potential and is premised on making it more difficult for Ukraine to reintegrate its territories and its people. To conclude, Russian efforts to ethnically cleanse occupied Ukraine and make its occupation permanent are still reversible, but will become harder to reverse in the long run. The liberation of Ukrainian lands is thus urgent, and delay powerfully advances Russian objectives to the detriment of both Ukraine and the West. If you're interested in more on the details of this occupation playbook, please check out my most recent report for ISW on the ISW website. That's all for me. Thank you so much, and I will see you all next time.